cloud, or else I will forget. So, okay. So I see, Crystal, you said what LinkedIn group? We have got I'm going to put the LinkedIn group is under PMI Baton Rouge. Okay. And let me see what we're even up to on participant. Oh, wow. We got 79 of y'all on the line. So I'm going to see if my numbers are right too with that tracking, like the 197, because like I said, that's part of even the presentation I'm going to do at LIM is just tracking those trends and kind of seeing what other chapters have had, as far as their virtual success, because I feel like for us, it's really, really worked to expand the message and to help bring people in. And to me, that's been part of the exciting journey of all of this. Because I know in person, there's a lot of us that still go back to in person, but I think there's a large sector that it's doing the virtual is easy. And it makes it an easy way to get the PDUs and stay engaged. So, okay. And Crystal, I can follow up with you a little bit after on that, on the direct link. Or two, if you did, Crystal, did you get if you had registered before, the link under my signature, I should have the link to the PMI group. So, and then Tori is saying Tori's at Cox Communications, that there's 2 positions for lead project support specialist at Cox Communications, and she's going to share that information. Okay. All right. Got a lot of good information coming on in the chats. I'm trying to get better at the multitasking and reading it all. Now, what I'd like to hear, how many of you are I'm seeing some in the chat, but how many of y'all are from other PMI chapters and connecting with our group for the first time? Demi, is that you?
Yeah. Hi.
Hi.
Hi, everyone. My name is Andrea Lawrence Adishina. I'm actually joining because of your hosts. I'm sorry, your presenter today, Andrea. Yeah. I think I belong with Andrea in a number of space, and just all of a sudden, as I was about closing, I think I saw that Andrea will be presenting in your chapter today. I'm actually from Lakeshore chapter, and I'm joining you from the library as well. I just dashed out from my office and I went to a library. And I'm joining you today to network with Baton Rouge and a host of others that will be joining. And I want to share a little bit of my own. I'm a project manager, and I've worked in different space in financial, governments, and a host of other spaces, right? You could look me up on my LinkedIn. But recently, I just...
It's breaking up just a little bit. I think it may be the audio. You're off of mute, but for some reason I don't hear the volume, so it may just be the connectivity.
Hello, can you hear me right now?
Okay, now, yes, now we can hear you again, yes.
Hello, can you hear me right now?
Yes.
It's better?
Yes.
Okay. So recently, I was approached over the last year and a half by the Global Project Management Office Institute, right? So, but I took on the course about a few weeks back, but during the last day of the course, I took ill. I was actually gushing out of blood from my nostril, right at the end of the lecture or the course because of high blood pressure. So I had so many things on my plate, but thank God I'm here today. But I just want to let you know that maybe by next week I'll be doing my certification to earn my CB PMO, and a host of all my classmates. You could look it up on my LinkedIn profile afterwards. I'll probably share it. All of them have qualified, but the last of the Romans, they call it, but I'll probably be doing it in the next couple of days by Friday. So
Okay.
I'm throwing out I'm partnering with my institution, is partnering with this Global Institute. So my certification should be done by weekend, and I'm using this platform to network with other
Right.
project managers, so as well as because we'll be doing training afterwards. So I don't know
Yeah.
who else will be, privy to this information I'm sharing. Once I share it, that you might want to explore new opportunities, because there are several opportunities, especially in Canada. I'll be
Right.
the number 3 license in Canada on this Global Institute, and the certification is called CB PMO.
Thank you for sharing that. No, I wish you the best of luck in the certification. So that's this weekend, correct?
That's right.
Okay. Well, hopefully that'll go well. So we're just looking at the time. So I think I set the communication that we would start at 5:45. So I'm going to try and stay on track. But there's 90 of you on the line right now. So I want to say my name's Tanya Boyd. I'm president of the PMI Baton Rouge chapter. And so I want to say thank you for all being here tonight. And I'd like to thank Andrea Pratt-Smith for joining us. Very cool story about Andrea. So Andrea lives in the Bahamas, and she has been joining us in these virtual sessions for over a year now. I don't know the exact first date, but I know that you're friends with Lee Lambert and have just been engaging with us constantly. And she's actually joined now as a chapter member. So I had the opportunity to talk to her. I mean, when we go out and we try to find speakers and we try to find content for the chapter, we're looking for something in the space related to project management, but it's kind of my thought and theory that if we bring speakers that can tell personal interest stories from their own human experiences and their life, that it will help all of us understand some of the concepts better, because a lot of us are in very different industries. We're on very different journeys and stages of our career, so I love bringing personal stories to this. And Andrea has gotten many different certifications, and she's an Agile advocate in the Bahamas. So with that, I'm going to go on mute. Hear from Andrea.
Thank you so much, Tanya. And before I get started, I just want to thank you for the opportunity, along with everyone who's involved on your team. Yes, as she said, I recently joined the PMI Baton Rouge chapter. I've been following for a while, and I just thought that this particular chapter was bringing so much value to my life that I wanted to become a part of it. So I joined in January when I had to renew my PMI membership. And I would be remiss if I don't bring to the forefront that this month we're celebrating Women's History Month. And it is my honor to present to you tonight a little bit about my journey and share with you my story. And this is the first time that I would be sharing my life story, which is very personal, but I feel as though I'm in a safe space. I'm with persons who can understand my challenges and who can appreciate my achievements. So I want to share my slide deck and get this party started. So you can let me know when you can see my screen.
And see it.
Okay. So my title is Life is a Project, Manage It Well. And I coined this phrase, life is a project. But as fellow project managers, you may not agree with me. So I pulled out the PMI Guide's definition of a project, which is basically saying that a project is a temporary endeavor undertaken to produce a unique product, service, or result. So I would like for you to type in the chat, do you agree that life can be classified as a project based on this definition from the PMI Guide? So I'm seeing a lot of absolutely yes, most definitely, absolutely. So I'm so glad that you agree that life is a project. So I'm going to take you on a journey with me and tell you about my life. This is actually a picture of myself when I was 16 years old. And I can't help but become emotional because when I think back to this version of myself, it's painful. And it's painful because being a teen mother is not easy. I was told by persons who I thought were supposed to be my encouragers, my motivators and supporters. I was told that I was never going to become anything in life, that basically I ruined my life, and that everything in my life would be such a challenge. I was told when I got pregnant that I should have an abortion. And it was a very, very difficult time in my life. I became suicidal. I suffered with depression. And basically, I was in a very bad place in my life. But I knew deep down inside that I was meant for more. And 2 weeks, when my son became 2 weeks old, I went back to high school and I finished the 12th grade. And I thought that that was such a great accomplishment because I didn't give up. I didn't quit school. I finished and I got my high school education. But then I thought everything was on track and I was going to start my life working and basically just focusing on taking care of my son. But when my son turned 1, we went to my mom's funeral. And I went back in that spiral because my mother was my best friend. And I had to live on my own with my infant, my toddler at that time. He was 1 year old. I lived on my own. And my main thing was just to survive. It wasn't about anything besides survival. But I realized that my son gave me a reason to live. It was because of him that I pushed myself, that I told myself that I had to do whatever it takes to make life better, not only for myself, but for me and him. But I struggled with self-doubt, with self-worth, with anxiety, with depression. I was an emotional wreck. And I never thought that given my life circumstances, living on my own, working full-time, trying to take care of a child by myself as a teenage single mother, that I could ever attend college. I told myself, my mom is deceased. My dad is retired. He's an elderly guy. I don't have any family support. I don't have anybody to help me. So I can't do it. But I had a friend who encouraged me. And she said, Andrea, just take the first step. Just apply and see what happens. And I did that. And I got accepted into the College of the Bahamas. And I started going to college in the year 2000 when my son was 3 years old. I could not afford a babysitter. So my landlady used to keep my son for me so that I could go to school. And I went to school part-time and worked full-time for 10 years. And I got my bachelor's degree. And I thought that that was such a huge accomplishment because it was a struggle. And my classmates could never understand why I was so focused. I was so determined. I was such a disciplined student. They could never understand. But when you have to decide between paying tuition and buying food, it's a different reality. It's not a luxury. And that was my life. That was my struggle. And I was only able to accomplish what I was able to accomplish because I had to change my mindset. I had to think differently about my life. I had to want better. I had to do better. I had to survive. And more importantly, I had to prove to myself that everything that people said negative about me, that it wasn't true, that I could accomplish whatever I set my mind to. And I chose this quote by Alexi Weaver. She's the author of the book, How to Get Rid of Self-Doubt and Start Believing in Yourself. And her quote is, everything begins from the mind, including change. So if you want to alter your life, you have to start with your mindset. And for me, that was my starting point. I had to start seeing myself as a success. I had to start believing that I could accomplish whatever I wanted in my life. And once I did that, the trajectory of my life was totally transformed. So I want to share with you how life is really a project, and it requires effective management to truly achieve success and happiness. And I'm going to guide you through 3 key principles that I have applied to my life that has helped me to manage my life as a project and obtain what I feel is success and happiness. But before we can move on to those principles, I want to share with you the definitions of purpose and vision that were coined by Dr. Miles Monroe. Purpose is when you know and understand what you were born to accomplish. And vision is when you see it in your mind and begin to imagine it. And he says that the greatest tragedy in life is not death, but a life without a purpose. Now we're moving on to the three key principles for managing life as a project. The first one is you have to define your goals. Then once you have your goals, you develop a plan. And thirdly, take action on what you have planned. When you define your goals, or when you have clear goals, or without clear goals, better, it is impossible to manage life effectively. How to define your goals? Start by setting SMART goals. And I know as project managers, we are all familiar with the term SMART goals. But for those of you who may not know, SMART goals simply means specific. Know who, what, when, where, and why. And I add how to this. So we incorporate 5 whys and I add the how to it. So be specific when you set your goals. Make sure that you have measured goals. You can't improve what you don't measure. So know how to measure your goals. The A stands for achievable. Achievable means that they're challenging, but they're not impossible. R refers to relevant, closely connected to the objective. So whatever your objective is with your goal, make sure that it's relevant. And lastly, times. You have to have a completion date because that completion date holds you responsible and accountable. So you can't just make a vague goal and say, oh, one day I'm going to do something. Give yourself a timeline, a deadline. And once you do that, you'll see just how focused you can be, how clear you can be, and it increases your motivation because you've set that timeline. We also have a tool called a vision board. When you set a vision board, and people normally do this at the beginning of the year as a New Year's resolution thing, but you can break this vision board down into 30, 60, and 90 days. And lastly, some persons use a life plan template. Principle number 2, develop a plan. Once you have defined your goals, you need a plan to achieve them. They're not just going to happen. You have to put a plan in place. Know what are those strategic steps that you need to take in order to achieve your goals. How can you do this? You can develop a to-do list. Have a to-do list, a checklist. Next thing, what's very important is breaking down your goals into smaller tasks. Don't try to boil the ocean. Know what those smaller tasks are and just tell yourself every day I'm going to accomplish at least 1, 2, or 3 things off of my goals list. And you could also use a productivity system. Now, a productivity system is a set of strategies, tools, and techniques that are used to increase efficiency, manage time, and achieve goals. It's a framework or methodology that can help individuals and organizations to prioritize tasks, track progress, and stay focused on what matters most. Now, some productivity systems can include delegation, project planning, time management, and task management. In project management, most of us are used to the Pomodoro technique, where we use a timer and we take frequent breaks. There's also something called the Eisenhower matrix, where you prioritize your tasks and you set them into the 4 quadrants and determine what are you going to work on based on their level of importance. What this does, the benefit of developing a plan, is increases your productivity, organization, and time management. So all you need to do is incorporate any of these tools or combination of these tools. You don't have to pick or choose. You could use whatever works for you. Principle number 3, when you know what your goals are, when you know what your plan is, then you have to take action, because a plan is useless without action. You must take consistent action to achieve your goals. The key word there being consistent. So you can't just have a goal, make a plan, start it, and then stop it and give up. You won't be able to achieve it if midpoint you figure it's too challenging and you don't want to pursue it anymore. It only happens and become a reality once you're consistent with your actions. And as Pablo Picasso said, action is the foundational key to all success. How do you take action? Like I said, consistent effort, perseverance, learning from your failures. In project management, we talk about lessons learned, having a log of the lessons learned. And that's not just the bad lessons. You have to record your good lessons. You want to repeat what happened to you and what was successful. Not only record what happened to you and you feel as though that was a failure. Lessons learned goes both ways. It's just knowing that you learned from it and this is how you're going to now implement it moving forward. The benefits of taking action, you build up your confidence. Nothing is more rewarding when you can see that you've been successful at something, and that makes you feel like you could try it again, try something new. It also helps you with resilience. When you fail, but you keep trying, you're practicing resilience. You're telling yourself that, hey, yes, I may have failed at this, but that doesn't stop me. I'm going to keep going. And when you have that final step, achievement, that's when you know, hey, I can do this. I did the necessary steps to achieve my goals and I am successful. I feel like I've, won the lottery. I have achievement and I love that feeling. So we've went through the 3 principles. And like I said earlier, it takes one step in the direction of your dreams and watch the universe perform miracles to help you. I started this presentation very emotional and telling you about my beginning and how it was very challenging for me and the obstacles I faced. Now I want to share with you the other side of that coin. When I took one step in the direction of my dreams, the universe literally performed miracles to help me. These are my accomplishments. With the exception of the CAPM, everything that you see here happened since the start of the pandemic in 2020. I became self-employed. I started my own company, Creative Minds Project Development and Consultation. Not only are we based in Nassau, Bahamas, but we have an office in Atlanta, Georgia. We have clients in the Bahamas and international clients, and our business is thriving. I started the Bahamas Agile and Project Management community in 2021. I felt that I wanted to bring home what I've been gaining from joining community of practices internationally. I wanted to have something homegrown. And when I did my research, there was not a community of practice for project managers or agilists in the Bahamas. So because there wasn't any, I decided to form one myself. This community I funded with my own monies until we got sponsorship from the Scrum Alliance. So 6 months after the Bahamas Agile and Project Management community was in existence, we were able to secure funding from the Scrum Alliance, and we're now part of their Scrum Alliance Network Pro user group. Recently, I was able to train and become a professional Kanban trainer. And this is something that I'm very proud of, because when you've been told that you are nobody and that you will never obtain anything in life, you basically threw your life away, you will always be a failure. For me to let you know that I am the first professional Kanban trainer in the Bahamas, and by extension, the entire Caribbean, is something that I'm very proud of. And these pictures was taken just last month when I attended the professional Kanban trainers face-to-face event in Alpharetta, Georgia. Daniel Vacanti and Colleen Johnson are the CEOs of ProKanban.org. We're sitting at the table at dinner, and those are professional Kanban trainers located all around the globe. And I know they were wondering, when I broke out my Bahamian flag, like what was going on. But you have to understand, when you have my background and feels like I've climbed the mountain, I want to stand at that mountaintop and shout. And the way that I shout is when I travel with my flag, and I can proclaim that I am the first Bahamian to have accomplished something that no one else has accomplished. And like Kobe Bryant said, if you want to make history, you have to do historic things. Next, I'm showing you photos of my son and my daughter. My son is now 26 years old. He went to maritime school. He went to aviation school. And now he is an officer on the Royal Bahamas Defense Force. He is an entrepreneur and he lives on his own. My daughter is 11 years old. So there's a 16-year gap between my two children. And when I was pregnant with my son, the nurses told me that they would see me next year. And I didn't understand what they meant at the time when they said it. So I asked someone to explain to me what the nurses meant by they would see me next year. And apparently they felt that once you had a child as a teenager, that you have children and you have multiple children. And so when they said they would see me next year, that was their way of telling me that I was going to fall into that statistic of having children back to back, because that's what teenage mothers do, according to them. And so the gap between my children of 16 years is because when I tell you I literally changed my mind, I told myself that I would not have another child until I was finished with my college degree. I was married, and that I had some kind of financial security, and I didn't have to endure the suffering and the struggling that I did when I had my son. And that's exactly what I did. My daughter came along after I had finished my college degree. My husband wanted to have a child right away when we got married, and I told him, no, I have to finish my degree. And so we waited until I finished my last research paper, handed that in. And then I told him, I said, okay, I'm good to go. Let's try and have this baby. And 2 months later, we conceived her. And yes, persons laugh and say, well, what's the big gap? Why you have such a big gap between your children? But when you understand the mindset and you want more for yourself, then it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter, because I love my kids and they're my shining accomplishment. When Victoria was 10 years old, she was actually the youngest presenter at the Access Agile Festival. And she presented on how I was teaching her Scrum and Agile in the classroom because I homeschooled her during the pandemic. She is also an entrepreneur. She started a business at 10 years old. I placed her back into school, and now she's tutoring the children in her class in religious, social studies, and science subjects. And I am very, very proud of my children, and they are my most precious accomplishment. Now that I've said all of that, I have a few minutes to share with you what's in the pipeline, because I'm a very ambitious person. I don't know if you picked up on that, but this weekend, I'm having a workshop entitled Accelerate Your Success by Redesigning Your Life with Dr. Laura Aziz, who is an executive coach and consultant. At the end of this month, Lee Lambert is coming to the Bahamas, and we're having a hybrid meetup in conjunction with the American Corner and the University of the Bahamas as part of our Bahamas Agile and Project Management Community Group. And also, I'm offering a Applying Professional Kanban certification course, April 18th through 20th this year, that's open for registration. After I'm done with what's in the pipeline, the next thing on my agenda is summer vacation, because it's important to have goals, pursue your goals, but it's also important to plan time to reset, relax, and rest. So always, you could be goal-oriented, but you need that downtime to recharge. So I told you about my struggle to survive, and I want to to share with you this quote that Maya Angelou said. My mission in life is not merely to survive, but to thrive, and do so with some passion, some compassion, some humor, and some style. I want to thank you for being such a great audience. I put together this hodgepodge of photos from my family albums. And it just is a reminder that anything is possible once you have the right mindset. And for me, that mindset comes from my faith. And I strongly believe that I can do all things through God who strengthens me. Thank you. And if you would like to connect with me, these are my ways to connect with me: LinkedIn, email, and those are some of the hashtags that I normally use. Thank you so much.
I think that this was fantastic. And thank you for presenting this, Andrea. We do have some time left, and I've got some curiosity questions. So if you've got more time for me to ask and allow others to join in as well, I'd love to know. I know when you were showing the different certifications that you mentioned that you earned all of them during the pandemic, with the exception of the CAPM. What actually inspired you first to get on the journey, and why project management? And why is that the overall theme that appeals to your heart and your training?
Well, I did not mention, but I'm also a certified youth leader. And for 20 years, I've served as a commander with the Royal Rangers Boys Club. And that has given me a lot of opportunities to actually implement projects, camp projects, fundraising projects. And I've always felt that I had a passion for it. I've always been somebody who's been schedule conscious, budget conscious, time conscious. Like, you know, in the Bahamas, we have this saying about Bahamian time. Bahamians are always late, but I'm the one Bahamian that I think is always on time, because I know the value of time. So I feel like project management for me has always been something that has been in me. So it was a natural decision based on my skills to follow that career path.
In which, and I know this may be difficult to quantify, but in terms of like the study programs and the time taken and things of that nature, actually, I'm going to ask specifically about the PMP. How much time did you take to study for the PMP? Because we've got some people in the group that are studying for that now. So having that context would help.
Well, the whole PMP story is kind of funny to me, because when 2020 started, I had told my husband that I felt that the Lord was telling me not to go back to work and to start my own company. And he supported me wholeheartedly. So in 2020, I was in that transition between leaving my corporate job where I was for 20 plus years and starting my own business. And I got into a lull, and I started watching The Walking Dead. And I was binge watching The Walking Dead
during the pandemic. I know.
Yeah, I was like, okay, this was entertaining for me. I don't know why. And then I just like had to shake myself and said, you know what, you need to stop watching this Walking Dead, because the zombie apocalypse is not going to help you. You need to help yourself. So I set the date for when I wanted to take my PMP exam, which was August of 2020. And my sister called me and asked me to come over to Georgia. She wanted to do a road trip for her birthday. So my daughter and I went over in July. We were supposed to come back in August, but then the country closed down. We couldn't get a flight out. So I ended up having to take my PMP exam in Georgia. And so the time that I took to study was 6 months during the pandemic.
About how long did you study per day?
I studied a lot. Okay. A lot. So that 6 months could translate into 2 years.
Yeah. And that's the toughest thing for me, and even leading the PMI chapter is a lot of people are interested in those studies. So, and it's very, very specific to the individual, to how they learn. to what resources they're using and what time that they have available and everything else is that's going on in their life. So I
Yes,
like to kind of have checkpoints from different people to get a wide variety of opinions because it really it can depend from person to person.
yeah.
Um, which one of the different exams was the most challenging? Because you have a wide array on there, and I don't automatically know that it was the PMP. May have
No,
been, but
no, I think for me, the PMP was the most challenging because I really dug deep into it and I just didn't want to know the content for knowing it to pass the exam. I wanted
right,
to try find creative ways to apply the theory to my practical life so that I could digest it better. And having that 6 months isolation during the pandemic, living in my sister's basement and I had the walls like, if you go into the police room and they have the crime sketch board with all the different with the different thread points going to the suspects. And I
right.
actually had a whole project PMO office down in the basement with the walls covered with information. And every day I would practice those different knowledge groups, the process groups, and I drilled that into myself in 6 months. So I can't say my story will be similar to anyone else's.
Right. And I do have a question. So Colleen had asked, do you have any mentors or leaders who inspired you to change your mindset as a teenager?
Well, they were far and few between, but they did exist. I had a few of my high school teachers who encouraged me. Actually, my high school principal, he encouraged me when the guidance counselors and everyone turned against me, and some of my teachers refused to come into the classroom. If I was present in the classroom, they wouldn't teach the class. My principal would allow me to come into his office and talk to me during my class time and try to encourage me. And I'm in contact with my high school teachers even today, because when I became a professional Kanban trainer, one of my high school teachers, she had a dinner party for me to celebrate. She was so happy.
I do want to mention, and I don't know if it's anything that you have ever checked out, you know, with PMI. I know you and I have talked about the different organizations that offer communities and things of that nature. But have you ever checked into like the Youth Foundation or those different initiatives through PMI to try and talk to them and streamline that? Because it's a wide universe on PMI National. It's not only the study and exam, they've got youth, military, volunteers. They've probably got about 50 offshoots. So
Yes, I haven't looked into anything that PMI is doing, but I have been speaking to FemSTEM Bahamas, and I recently contacted them in becoming an advisor for the young girls who are part of that program to try to encourage them and just to speak life to them, because it's so hard when you are young and
right.
then you don't have any mentors or role models or someone to say, try to encourage you along your journey. It becomes challenging.
And I do have a couple of questions. The first one from Christelle is, where did your interest in project management come from? She was just asking, she says, I might have missed it, but where did that interest initially stem from?
Like I said before, I think that interest was always in me. I was always organized. I was always aware of time. I was very budget conscious, and I loved managing projects. And I've worked in the youth leadership capacity for over 20 years, managing projects, organizing camps, fundraisers with the Royal Rangers Boys Club. So I just honed my skills there before I started my certification journey.
Okay. And then I've got one from, let's see, there's several coming in through here. So now technically for everybody on the line too, I'm going to provide the claim code in a little bit in the chat, and I'll say it again later because we can actually be here till 7 if everybody is okay with it in time for questions. And it looks like we're getting a few. So Tori had asked, she said she acknowledged that she saw you getting emotional, about the struggles, and she'd admitted, I mean, I really do, for various reasons, but I think we all probably have our own struggles that we deal with and dealing with other people in project management. But she had asked, how do you suppress those negative emotions to keep moving forward?
Well, right now, this is therapy for me because I don't really share my story. I've never publicly shared the full story. And I'm actually in counseling right now. My son and I are doing counseling because I've never shared my story with him. And I've tried to shield him from a lot of what I experienced when he was young and make him just have a normal childhood. And I would sacrifice just to make sure that he never went without. And so now I'm in counseling, so I don't have to suppress these feelings and emotions anymore, because without dealing with them properly, they can become toxic. So it's good to talk about it. It's good to share your story, and it's a good way for people to lean in and see you for who you are.
I think that's important. And I think especially after what we all went through in the pandemic, a lot of that has become more okay. And then even these communications, I've realized, even through the journey of these virtuals and different experiences, that a lot of people have had challenges in project management, dealing with difficult people, dealing with difficult things and things that have been said to them, and being able to express that actually helps. So I respect you doing this, and I thank you. Do see a question from Gabriel. So Gabriel's going to be graduating from LSU in 2 months, and he's interested in pursuing certifications in project management. And what would your advice be on pursuing those while beginning a career and balancing requirements for both?
Well, I always tell persons who are just starting their career in project management to start with the CAPM, the CAPM from PMI. It doesn't have a prerequisite. It's not an intense exam. And a lot of the PMI chapters actually offer an affordable study group. So you can join PMI, download the digital book for free, and then start that journey with the CAPM.
One thing I wanted to point out about that, because I have seen some different people that go for the CAPM where they've actually got the year's experience for the PMP. So we get asked that a lot. It is really kind of a personal call for the person that has taken the test, because I have heard that the tests are similar. It's just it's very experience driven, but yes, I would sort of sway people that do have the years of experience to look more into the PMP, and really just that's kind of from a cost savings, because they're similarly priced on sitting for the exam. And for people that are doing that too, just even on cost. So if you were a PMI National member, your first year of membership with PMI National actually kind of gives you the discount point of what you would pay if you weren't a member. And like these, our chapter membership, most local chapters are anywhere from 25 to 45 from what I've seen. Ours is $30 annually. And really for us, and I'm going to put the claim code too, it kind of, if you're a member, we have that number, we can submit PDUs on your behalf, but for those of you that are guests, you would have to self-report. And a lot of times too, I realize that I've met people that go in and they take the test and they're like, woo, done. That's all I got to do. And it's like, wait, no, you got those 60 PDUs that you've got to keep up with over the 3-year maintenance cycle. But the cool thing too, and you would have realized this too, Andrea, since you've got several certifications, if you've got several PMI certifications, you don't actually have to go out and take different courses. It translates over. So for instance, I've got the ACP and PMP. When these are submitted, it will go to both. So people that are maybe on the fence about, should I get another designation? They just need to realize that, yes, those credits will go towards both of them. So
exactly.
Let's see. And I see a question from Wizzy. So yes, people I've spoken to say that if you have your degree, go for the PMP instead of the CAPM. Your experience can come from life itself and doesn't have to actually come from working on projects in business One example is if you've organized a family reunion. I'm going to comment on that. That may be it may be acceptable. I don't always know exactly how to quantify that because I've also run into people that when they submit their experience to PMI, they get audited or
Yeah.
it get kicked back to them. There's been a few people that I've been able to successfully help and rephrase. It doesn't always work, but I'll use an example. Like there was an engineer that he was using a lot of engineering terminology like decommissioning and things of that nature. And when I read it, I had to tell him, hey, people at PMI, it's more project centric, be able to speak in a language that can translate across industries. You know, so sometimes too, I mean, I don't know. It's like I agree with you to some extent, Lizzie, but I don't always know if that passes or gets across the other side too. You know, sometimes they do look at the experience in the workforce in those number of years. So
Yeah, it's how you word it. The rephrasing is key. We have a very active mock military outreach committee. So
okay.
we have a lot of military folks who are trying to translate their work in the military.
Right.
And they actually had some people, one person actually used their, I hate to say it because I don't like the word divorce, but they actually used their divorce as a project, and it was all in how they worded it, and it was accepted.
That's a
So,
trip.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I
mean, I
mean,
can see where it would be a project to manage, but it's, you know, that's,
you've got all the elements. It's like Andrea said, what's the definition of a project?
right.
Yeah.
Right. So, and again, that's, you know, it's tough too, because it's like, you don't always know what they're looking for on that other side or who's going to pick up the application and who's going to audit it or what their understanding of your industry is. But even, and I'm just going to kind of say this out loud too, that people that are looking to volunteer with our chapter, because I get asked that a lot, you know, and so we've got our formal board, you know, but then we've got the things to manage. And it's like, so you're managing a team on the volunteer, you know, time. But one good volunteer area would be people to kind of form self-study groups, I think would help other people. And then if people are struggling with how to write up their applications, even being able to know other people's industries and match them up to maybe help, you know, that could help the person trying to sit for the examination and the person that's got their certification could use that to self-report PDUs. You know, so just sometimes thinking outside of the box on those activities would help. Another quick thing too, speaking on industries, I was pulling reports in our system the other day, and we have like, we've got 532 members right now. So today, there was like 140 that was classified as the industry was other or not applicable. And so I know a lot of people are in transition or change, or, you know, they've changed, and I've changed industries a few times in the past 3 years. But just if y'all have an opportunity to update your information or if emails change or anything like that, that would be on PMI.org. That information can be used as data for the chapter that we can kind of help drill down and provide, you know, content that's industry related too and helps. Okay. I'm just going back and seeing if we have any more questions. And actually, I would encourage people, if you do have a question, you can feel free to take yourself off of mute or raise your hand, and I can tell you to. And we've got 103 people on the line right now, so I'm flipping through the pages just to see. Okay. It's taken a minute. So with that, and I'm going to type this in, but I'm going to say the claim code out loud. So the claim code for guest is C106T1764H. And again, that's C106T1764H. All right, yes, I can type it. Let's see. I'm gonna have to pay my members in 3 to 5 days or whenever I'm done traveling. It will get there. So what's going to be your next event? Is it the one with Laura, Andrea?
Yes, that's this weekend.
Okay. Let's see. One idea I would love to give you to kind of food for thought. So PMI's got Global Summit that will be in October. That's going to be open to all thought practitioners. They don't have to be specific or serving on a board. They are accepting proposals for speakers, but it's only going to be, well, actually the due date is tomorrow. So the due date is tomorrow by midnight, March the 15th. But if you had even that time capacity within a day to look at their form, it's on PMI.org in their learning center under global, and fill out the speaker form. I think your story would resonate with a lot of people, because I think a lot of people that are trying to transition kind of feel like, but I haven't been a project manager. What do I know about this? And I think some of us that are working in the industry, I mean, I have days that I'm like, what do I know about this? I know nothing. So we all have those moments where we hit those projects that make us question. But I think just having people to champion you and people to motivate you and people to push you and keep it going makes a big difference. So
That makes a huge difference. I just need to get to the point where I can present
yes,
my life story without ugly crying.
I think it would. So, well, going back, we are getting a lot of, let's see. I say where Wizzy answered Gabriel, if you have your PMP, that's true. So when I talk about PDUs, it does apply to people that have already earned their certifications. So for those of you that are looking at getting in that process of taking it, the criteria really depends upon, there's a certain amount of experience if you have a degree and a certain amount if you don't have a degree. Then you've also got to have the 30 hours of training that you've got to record. There's a wide variety of different training resources that you can use. There's a wide variety of costs, mobile content, different things of that nature. So, okay, please. Okay, Sean, what do we? Okay. Let's see. So let me just speak to because I'm still seeing questions in here. So PDUs. PDUs is part of continuing education for people who have earned their certification. For those of you that are in the process of studying right now, PDUs don't apply to you, but the minute that you pass that test, you're going to want to make sure to join these and be a member, because those PDUs will apply to you. For the PMP, you need 60 for every 3 years. These meetings count for 1.5 PDUs. PMI has got what they call a talent triangle. The talent triangle covers 3 different areas. It covers business acumen. They changed it. Business acumen, power skills, and ways of working, which they kind of map to leadership, strategic, and technical. So it's just making sure that you diversify the different buckets of skills and learning and get a lot of the samplings of the different flavors to make sure that you meet that criteria. So let's see. Do you see one more question from Pallavi? How do you justify the need for a PM on any project where the stakeholders are not educated about what a PM can do? And that could be group advice.
This is Pallavi here. I asked this question because our speaker today has used project manager in life, not on a professional front, but that whole concept of how you get it done is a project manager's mind. You need not name it, but you do it. How do you sell yourself there?
I could answer that question.
Thank
Because
you.
right now I'm working with clients who don't know about Scrum, and I'm serving on their project as a Scrum Master. And in order for them to value the work of a Scrum Master, you have to educate them about the role and what it entails and why it's important. So that same thing applies with a project manager. If they don't understand the need for the project manager on the project and the value that you bring to the project, then they would never understand why you're there. So you have to educate them on the value that you bring.
That is very true. I mean, and it kind of justification for it, especially with companies that are not used to having PMs, is just really asking them, do your projects get done on time? Do you meet your goals? You know, and they need to know what the definition of a project is. I mean, and that's the hardest part in some of our jobs, because we work with a lot of different stakeholders that say, I want something, I want it fixed, I want it to be better. Well, please explain to me a little bit further about what would be those requirements that would need to go into that. So the soft skills of a PM and just being able to conduct investigative questions, to talk to people, to pull information out of them is a big skill.
Yeah.
And Andrew, I see you've got your hand up.
Yep. I responded to Paul V. That's your job. I use self-discovery as a way of promoting project management. I'm in writing orders and taskings, and it's very agile centric, where we write a paragraph. We have the stakeholders look at it, and then we rewrite it to meet the stakeholders' needs. And we use that iterative process for each paragraph. And oftentimes people think they're looking at the entire order as one big project. I'm like, no. Focus on one paragraph. It's maybe one page or maybe half a page, and then go from there. And then they realize, oh, it's not that difficult. So yes, as a project manager, you have to actually do kid glove hand holding, so they don't feel overwhelmed and they don't feel intimidated by me being the project manager. So yeah, that's what I do.
Adventures in babysitting. That's what I throw it back to the 80s, and I'm like, it's adventures.
Can I use that? Can I use that?
Yes, you can use that. It's true, but it's tough. I mean, we all know that too. I mean, you know, think about our lives. What do you want for dinner? I don't know. What do you want to go for dinner? What restaurant do you want to go to? I don't know. I don't know what I feel like today. I'm on a diet. What kind of diet? Okay, we'll start tomorrow. I mean, and we're kind of in the information overload, especially since I mean, there's so much coming at us.
Yeah.
So with the stakeholders, it is the self-awareness, the emotional regulation, the constant practice, even what Andrea said, just your mindset. You have to work on yourself and the way that you frame yourself and your negative emotions and all of that before you can really get out there and help steer other people too. It's a lot. Let's see. Well, we still got 94, y'all, on the line. So, all right. I want to give us just a couple of more minutes. So if anybody, I feel like we're sharing some really good information. And Andrea, this has been fantastic. And I appreciate you sharing your time on this. So let's see. Okay, she was, all right, looking for more out of the box ideas on it. Bobby, could you share like a little, maybe a scenario of a specific instance, like without going into, you know, all of the work and or throwing anybody under the bus, but like just what kind of challenges that you're running into with painting the value, if you don't mind sharing. Okay. Let's see. Or anybody else, y'all have good suggestions or ways that you've helped paint the value of project management to organizations that you work for or are contracted for?
So I'll say something, Tanya, kind of with my last job. We had several IT projects. I worked for a community college and we had several IT projects and they just kept falling out of scope. They were just taking too long. We were forgetting to order things. And I was working on my bachelor's at the time and I was taking my project management course. And I just learned so much, like, this is value that we can add just by managing this and talking to the stakeholders, you know, letting people know when the internet's going to be out. Just these little things that could just make such a big improvement to the IT projects that we're working on. So I think, like you said, just kind of selling yourself, like someone mentioned, and just putting that value into projects can definitely help. And I went to the vice chancellor of finance and I was like, you need a project manager. And he was like, oh, no, no, no. And I'm like, yes, you do. And so I kind of was able to explain to him how the projects worked. And we didn't get a project manager, but it changed the way that we ran our IT projects. It changed the way that we ordered equipment. It changed the way that we worked with our contractors. So it just overall was a great benefit to getting our projects done on time after that.
It's kind of, I mean, the weird thing to describe it, it's almost like having the tools and tips up your sleeve. But again, the tough part about project management is you can read things in a book all day long. You can read it, you can understand it, you can understand the concept, you can understand it in theory. But it's almost like until you go out there and are doing it, it's very tough to distill that concept. And it's also important, especially in an agile world, it's important to remember that not all the tools and tips are going to apply in every scenario. You know, like for instance, where I work currently, we're not using sprints per se. We kind of do, but we're not using burn down charts because sometimes the estimates don't always translate over and there's architectural differences. It's great to get to that point if you have that input. But with project managers, a lot of it comes down to like figuring out how to see the risks, how to getting people to talk, how to communicate information, make sure it's documented, make sure it's in a place where they can find it and that they understand. And it is a lot of reminders too about things and drilling home. It really is. It's drilling home the message or saying, did you think about this? Did you think about this? What about this person? Did they know that? It's identifying your stakeholders and knowing who's impacted by things. You know what I mean? That's just something that it almost takes practicing, but you don't always have to be in a work environment to do that. You can sort of contextualize project management. Like if you've got kids that are in school, their teachers are your stakeholders because your teachers have an impact on your children's life. The principal has an impact on your child's life. The other kids and their behaviors and their parents' behaviors sometimes can have an impact on your kid's life. So, you know, managing your kid's life can also be a project too, and understanding the stakeholders that influence over your child, or whether you go to church and what's happening in your church or the people that do the potluck. It's taking all the tools and tips and context and putting it in an environment where you are familiar with, because a lot of us wind up having to be in jobs and it takes forever. It's like, oh, how do we ramp up quickly and learn everything that's going on here for 10 years? How do we do that? You know, so the best advice is just practicing some of those concepts with friends or even talking about it and what it can mean. And that's what this network is for. We don't all have the exact answers. And there's so many industries that project management covers, but at least having a network and a group where if you start to feel comfortable, you can reach out and go, hey, I'm hitting the wall. What did you do? How did you solve this? You know? And I think we all need that. So.
Yeah. And what you said, Tanya, is so true, is that community that really helps, because I'm finding that through the Bahamas Agile and project management community, we're being contacted by persons who are in the profession of project management, and even those who want to become Agilists and they don't know, like we spoke about the certifications and where to go and how to go about it. And it's just trying to leverage your network. Basically, you build a network for a reason. So call on the network to help you when you have those questions. And if it's work related or something you struggle with and you can't seem to find the answer, someone within your network will be able to give you some advice to help you solve that problem.
I agree. And LinkedIn is big. I mean, I'm a huge advocate for LinkedIn. Now, our chapter, so we've got the LinkedIn. Our VP of membership, Emily Ward, has really kind of helped to revive our Facebook chapter as well. And she created an Instagram chapter. So we have multiple channels. I know the one I'm most active on is probably LinkedIn, because I feel that that's where the widest spread is, because even just answering messages or encouraging other people, to kind of chime in on things, but Andrea, you're in the communication. We had your email, and also your LinkedIn information, so if people aren't on LinkedIn or very active, I would totally encourage y'all to try and reach out and connect. It can be really kind of life-changing. And even for these meetings, now that we have the ability to do virtual, I kind of go on there for data a lot of times, because we have a lot of people that'll come and say, okay, well, I'm going to charge $2,000 to speak for an hour. And I'm like, no, it's kind of value. I mean, we're a nonprofit. We have operations, but it's like our goal and our mission is to expose our network to really good information, a community of practitioners, and that way you can get a little bit of advice and pick up something on each meeting, but meet your education. And, just following a wide variety of people with great ideas that are willing to engage and talk on LinkedIn, I think is a very good strategy. So, but well, it looks like we are close to wrapping up. So I wanted to say thank you to Andrea again. Thank you for sharing your story. I didn't even realize that this was going to be the first time that you shared your story like this, but I'm very glad that you did. And I appreciate you thinking of this as a safe space and trusting us. And, I hope for all of you that have joined us tonight that you were able to learn something or get motivated. And, so for our members, we'll have you the PDUs probably within 3 to 5 days. Our recording of this, hopefully we'll be able to get it on the website by the end of the day tomorrow, if not by the end of the week. And those of you that have any questions afterwards too, that may not be members, you can reach me. I'm going to put the email in there. My name's Tanya Boyd, and I'm the president of the chapter. So it would be president at PMI Baton Rouge.org. And y'all should have all gotten an email from me too. So, and for those of y'all in the local area, if y'all have the opportunity next Wednesday, will be Reed Richard with Brett at Portobello's on the Jones Creek O'Neill location. So thank you again, and we will all talk again soon. And I think next month, April 11th, we've got Raphael from the PMI Manitoba chapter that's going to be talking to us about risk management. And that's the Prince 2 version and the PMBOK version as well. So, all righty, y'all. Y'all have a good night.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Night.
Have a good night.